there in Channel 9 land.
Hello.
Talkin' Baseball is back with Season 3, Episode 2.
We've made it into Season 3 now. I can't believe it. Thank you for all watching.
And for first-time viewers, I'm Pete Lincoln.
I'm Jason Smith, and we are here just as the new Red Sox season is starting. We're about 3 weeks in right now, so we thought we'd run through a couple topics about the current team and about some other stuff, too.
I think probably the most discussed, controversial thing that's going on to start this season is the move for shorter baseball games. Someone has decided that baseball games are too long. In fact, before we even start, what do you think that might be?
I don't know. Who's complaining about baseball games being too long? I mean, no fans that I know.
We wait all winter for baseball, and there's a few games people say, oh, it's too long.
And what's the first thing we do after the Red Sox game's over? We change the channel and watch a different game. So there's no such thing as too much baseball if you're a fan. So we're sort of mystified as to where this is coming from.
But apparently there is a move to shorten baseball games. Now, some of the things I've heard to make them 7 innings. That was shortening games down.
Oh, yeah, I heard that one too.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, that's really good.
Start extra innings with a man on second base.
Oh, I heard that one too.
Discussed that.
I heard that one too.
Or maybe just shorten the season to
154 games.
Or even less than that. Minor league seasons run just June to June, like single A teams do.
Yeah, I have 100 games a year. Oh, good. That'll be fun. Yeah.
People, please.
No. No. There is no such thing as too much baseball if you are a fan. Okay? Right. There's no such thing.
So apparently this must be aimed at the casual fan, or people that they're trying to lure in from other sports like volleyball and golf.
Something like that. Well, see, and we're going to talk about some of the things that all of these incentives that they're supposedly putting in place to shorten games, they're not really going to help a casual fan get into the sport any more than they already are. So it's sort of a moot point right now.
This is the one that gives me the most smiles so far. They played baseball for 140 years. And when you decide you want to intentionally walk someone because he's a more dangerous hitter to set up a better situation on the base paths, you throw 4 quick, wide pitches to him, and he walks to first. Once in a very great while, I remember the famous one when Gene Tennis and Raleigh Fingers threw a quick pitch on Johnny Bench. And got him
I remember Tony Pena did it a couple times too, but it's pretty rare.
Occasionally there's a wild pitch, which just makes things more exciting. But you just throw 4 quick pitches, tops a minute. To throw
not even.
Well, the new system this year is, all you have to tell the umpire is that we want to walk this guy, and he points to first. The guy comes up and walks to first. Savings, easy a minute. Now, the Sox have played 18 games at this point so far this year, and they've intentionally walked 2 guys.
Two.
So in the 18 games, they've saved 2 minutes.
So prorate that out for a whole season. It's about 16 minutes for the entire season.
Yeah, and you save, on an average, 7 or 8 seconds a game.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, that's I know in my busy life I can't spare an extra 8 seconds to watch a baseball game.
Now, here's some of the other clever things they've come up with. The batter has to stay in the batter's box. Well, that doesn't include when he hits a foul ball, or when he adjusts his little straps on his hand. That's another thing one of the people said, don't let them wear batting gloves anymore. Oh, because then the straps shouldn't loosen up that often.
But on the other hand, they have to wait the 15 seconds for the walk-up music to end before they can get in the batter's box. Perhaps that's a little more of a delay than them stepping out. You know, we have to get the whole verse of the latest Ludacris song before someone can step in the box. And come on.
And then another one is, now they're going to allow the manager to call for an instant replay from the dugout.
Oh, good.
Instead of walking out onto the field. So someone like Farrell can use the exercise. Doesn't come out of the dugout, he can just signal it.
But what they're not saying is that the replay itself is what takes forever, not the walk out to the umpire. Come on.
It still baffles me why they can't have another umpire sitting up in the press box, and he makes the decision about whether there's a call or not. They put this calling to New York. I still don't know where in New York.
No, there's still the mystery, man.
But they put their helmets on. They all huddle together. I understand now there's a move to have the umpires mic'd up, like the football officials are, so you can hear what they're talking about. Well, they're probably saying candlesticks.
They probably, What do you want to make out? Candlesticks make a nice gift? All right, let's go again. In fact, it's funny you mention that. Just the other night, there was a call where C.B. Buckner, who's other than Angel Hernandez, is probably the worst umpire in the majors. Logan Morrison was mic'd up the batter was mic'd up, and there was an absurd pitch that was called a strike, and you heard the back and forth between Morrison and Buckner, and it got kind of vulgar, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how good an idea that is to mic up the umpires, and especially with balls and strikes that we were talking about before. I don't know about that, but that is not going to save time. The 30-second walk out to the umpire to challenge a call is not what's making games longer.
And the fourth one is they now put a clock, which actually shows in the grandstand.
Yep.
Clock 2.5 minutes total between innings. Now my question is, what if they go over that? What's the penalty?
None. They haven't announced
You
it.
get a free run?
Or do you get a bonus if it's shorter? I mean, if you cut it down to 2 minutes, I mean, is there some incentive?
The fans have to give back the bobbleheads? It's always a possibility.
And keep in mind that this 2.5 minutes is for every ad set.
That's
So
right.
if you're bringing in, we'll get into this later, but if you're with all the extra things now and all the extra breaks that lead directly to revenue anyway, because what it comes down to is, we always say this, baseball is a
business.
and you're not going to cut 2.5 minutes down. That is set in stone. The advertisers are going to want that space, and they're going to want it every single ad space too. Not just in between innings, every time there's a relief pitcher change, whatever. They're going to want that. So that's not going to change.
The one thing different between baseball and other sports, there is no TV timeout per se.
Right.
So they don't
Yeah.
just stop action. People stand around like they do in football and basketball for an apparent, and I understand in basketball when it gets down to 3 minutes,
Yes,
you have
TV
to,
timeout,
TV
yes.
timeouts.
Right.
We used to go to see games up at UMass, and they would announce it. TV timeout,
timeout,
everybody
yeah.
sit there,
Yeah.
and the players would stand on the field.
Yeah.
TV is ruling baseball. There's no question about that.
Sure.
Especially that during the playoffs and World Series, it's 4 minutes break.
4 minutes,
4
which is
minutes.
incredibly long.
You total that up now, 4 minutes twice inning, that's 8 times 9, that's 72 minutes
That's not- yeah.
in between innings.
And that's just the innings. That's not relief pitchers. That's not injuries, things like that.
Almost an hour extra just for commercials now. So that's part of the reason the games are longer. And we don't seem to have the influence that the Super Bowl does, because people want to see the ads.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
The ads just sort of
For
stink.
over 162 games, you get sick of seeing the same ads over and over again. I mean, a week into the season, there are ads coming on and you're already rolling your eyes saying, oh, God, I saw this the last 3 innings. I have to sit through this thing again?
So certainly TV is one of the reasons they have. In the old days, they figured about 90 seconds to switch. They didn't
Right.
take the gloves off the field.
Right.
And they get out of there quickly, so the games would run a little over 2 hours. Well, they've added it on, mostly the television.
And it's not just advertisers, it's also the networks.
Yeah.
Easily 30 to 45 seconds of those 2.5 minute ads are for NESN itself. So the networks have an incentive to put that gap in there too, because they're promoting their stuff too. It's not just outside advertisers.
I think the people who want the game shorter don't understand the nature of baseball. Baseball isn't checkers, it's chess. It's the strategies, the building up, it's the Hitchcockian
Yes,
suspense
right.
which makes the sport better than football. They play, stoppage. They play, 10 seconds stoppage. Chunk, 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 chunk. With baseball, situations develop. Now, that's what colormen in baseball do. Jerry will say, in this situation, it might be a hit and run, might be a steal, he's going to be going to this pitch, Get all the new changes in positioning players now. It's strategy that builds up to a point.
Sure.
So that it needs to be longer.
Sure, and how many times have you seen this? And to build the tension, and Jorge Posada was king of this. He added 5 minutes to a game just by himself. Big tense moment, time, and the catcher walks up to the mound to confer with the pitcher on what pitch to throw and everything. And some people don't like that. I'm sorry. I think it's cool. I think it adds to the tension. It adds more build-up. And so it adds 5 minutes into the game when Posada wanders out there 20 times a game. Big deal. I mean,
We try to break
big
up
deal.
the rhythm of the hitter and break up the rhythm of the batter.
Sure. Oh, yeah. If Chris Sale's out there like the other day mowing him down, of course you're going to want to step out of the box and dig in, and any kind of advantage you can get to throw the pitcher off his game, that helps your team win. And that's what it's about. It's about winning the game. It's not about, oh, we lost, but it took 2 hours. Well, you still lost. I mean, come on.
Speaking back to football, what makes Brady so good is he does these hurry-up offense, so he doesn't let that break in.
Right, sure.
Unless there's a TV
timeout.
And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
So, I think the fact that the MLB package has come into prominence is evidence that baseball is popular and people love the sport regardless
Sure.
of the amount of time it takes
Sure.
place.
Sure.
There are 14 cable and satellite providers, 14, that offer the MLB Extra Innings package. That's 80 games a week.
80 a week.
It's available all the way from Newfoundland to Brazil, through the entire North and South America.
North and South America.
And so people not only watch more baseball, they watch it
All day.
And you can follow any team anywhere.
Oh, sure.
If I'm a San Diego transplant living in New Jersey, I can watch all the San Diego games.
And if you're so inclined, the way the different time zones line up and everything, you could sit for 12 hours and watch nothing but baseball for 12 hours if you wanted to do, which, guilty, I've done it. I think we all have.
It's a rainy day. It's on from 1 until 1.
I'm not moving anywhere. But there are a lot of other factors I think that people sort of are confusing with how long the games take. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Is that we'll do our trivia question first because it sort of leads into what we're going to talk about what people are confusing with how long a game takes.
Yeah. Well, I think the target audience is kids. The nature of the times, the zeitgeist of now, is that kids don't go outside and play.
Never.
They don't play pass anymore. When I was a kid, when Jason was a kid, we played outdoor wiffle ball.
All day.
Play pass
all day.
All day long. Jason and his brother used to play in the backyard over here, and they both like Dennis Eckersley, so we pitched for both teams.
We were both Eckersley.
You got the win, the loss, and the save all the same.
Every game, and we would throw until my arm was just meat. I would be sore for days after a few
But
of
now,
those games.
kids ball is all organized. You start with T-ball. These little guys have no idea what they're doing, but their helicopter parents are over there having fits if they're not getting triples on the...
Right, yeah.
Everything is organized that way, but they just don't go out and play anymore. I'm sure today we would have Wii wiffle ball for children.
You're right, yeah. Well, and it's very rare when you see, you drive by and you see a baseball field. I mean, they just don't exist anymore unless it's for like a school or an organization. They used to be all over the place. There's sandlot fields, whatever, and kids would play all day. That just doesn't happen anymore. It's just sort of the nature of the times.
But I think that's partly, again, the victim of television.
Sure.
Television has put baseball into a night sport. Yeah. Almost no afternoon games, usually Sundays, although it's a Sunday night game.
Yeah.
And, for instance, this is our trivia question.
Yes, yeah, this is a great question.
When was the last daytime World Series game?
Think about that.
Think about that. When was the last time a World Series game was played in the day?
Right.
Generally, they start at 8:15 or 8:30,
Mm-hmm.
and that means that they're going to end at midnight, and kids can't stay
And
up.
that's part of the thing that I think people are confusing. It's not necessarily that the games are longer, they're starting later.
Yeah.
Especially on the East Coast, where we always get 8:30 start times for playoff games, World Series games, All-Star games, things like that. And kids can't stay up till midnight watching them. I work at somewhere where I have to be in at 7 in the morning, which means all my coworkers and I get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. The casual fan isn't going to stay up till midnight. I can't tell you how many times, did you watch the game? I went to bed in the 6th inning because it was 11 o'clock in the 6th inning.
Let's face it, the diehard fans of any sport will watch the game at any time.
Absolutely.
And you'll see the World Series games are sold out.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to reach that larger audience, especially the younger audience, you've got to make the games available at times that they can watch them. Fifth's famous home run in the 75 World Series took place at 12:07.
Yeah.
7 minutes after midnight.
Mm-hmm.
When Poppy hit the home run to bring the Sox back for the Yankees, it was 1:15.
1:50. I remember that.
1:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
And Tiny Tim is not going to be staying up to watch the game at that
And like
time.
you said, TV rules. And I'm picking mostly on Fox because most of the games are on Fox, but okay, maybe I can understand if it's, say, like the Angels and the Giants that year in the World Series. Okay, you started at 8:30 because there's a West Coast tilt. But like the Yankees and the Marlins in the World Series, why start it at 8:30? It's partly because they want it in prime time. Fox is not willing to move its 7 o'clock networking out of the way for a baseball game because they have set times that they show. TMZ is on at 7 o'clock. Well, we're not going to move that. We're going to put the game at 8 o'clock in prime time for East Coast people. And East Coasters, we have some baggy eyes the next day for a few weeks in October because of all that. And it's not just Fox, it's every network, but Fox is the big one for that because most of it's on them. But you're right, the TV rules, the time slots, it rules everything about the game.
So it's a double-edged sword. Baseball makes enormous income from television. And that's why the salaries are high, it's why the stadiums, the tickets cost so much. That's why the players are so incredibly well paid. But on the other hand, they're edging out a younger generation that doesn't have that kind of patience or time or available to watch the games. And since they're not playing it themselves, they're not generating the interest that the older generation had from the time they were young.
Yeah. And granted, it does take longer for other reasons because the rise of the relief pitcher, for one thing, is that there are so many specialists. It used to be your starter went the whole game, or maybe your starter went 7 and your closer went 2, and that was it. Now there are lefty and righty specialists, and every time you bring them in, that's a delay. That's another ad on top of everything else, and it just extends the game out. And it's not just the pitchers. The hitters are also a bigger strategy-wise, too, in terms of trying to work a walk or strikeouts. The strikeouts are higher than ever before, and those are extra pitches. That takes extra time. I mean, the days of the swinging at the first pitch are pretty much long gone. I mean, I was just reading something the other day that by coincidence, that Game 7 of the 1960 World Series, the Mazeroski home run game. Now, this is a 10-9 World Series game. 10-9. It took 2 hours and 37 minutes, and one batter struck out the entire game. So that's just some of the strategical things that have changed the game, and making it longer is because people are trying to work walks and don't care about striking out, which you never used to worry. Strikeout was the ultimate worst thing you could do before. People don't care about strikeouts now. So that just adds extra pitches, extra length, and then, like you said, the strategist, the lefty guy, the righty guy, you're going through 5 or 6 pitches a game, and that all adds time to the game.
Of course it does.
So it's sort of part of the game itself, but the ads and everything compounds that too, I think.
And the defensive shifts. Last year they had 30,000 defensive shifts total to get, and to move the guys around takes just a little while longer.
But it adds up.
Sure it does.
It adds up. So.
And so I think it's sort of, they're fighting a losing battle by chipping away with these nitpicky little things.
It doesn't make much difference. It really doesn't.
So ball 4, you take your base off.
Right.
And
not to mention, there are just some times where the game is going to be intrinsically slower. Yep. Anytime Clay Buchholz or Jonathan Papelbon appeared in a game, it was going to be an extra half hour because they took forever. Whereas somebody like Sale or Mark Burley was the ultimate one. It's a 2-hour game. Get the ball back in Wakefield. Get the ball back, throw, and you're done. Whatever. So it just by nature of some players taking forever does that too.
You mentioned strikeouts. They made such a big deal about Mookie Betts with 120 at-bats without striking out. Yeah. That's a rarity. The year that Joe DiMaggio had his 56-game hitting streak, he struck out 15 times all season.
All year.
But he still hit, it wasn't as though he was working twice.
Well, and that goes to show a little tangent, but if you look at the 3,000 strikeout club now, it's more and more geared towards recent pitchers because of the rise of the strikeout. Back in the 50s, 60s, even before the World War II and everything, people just didn't strike out.
So they didn't want to.
Yeah, they didn't want to.
With 2 strikes, you choke up.
Sure. You try to hit a grounder the other way or something.
Anyway.
Now people just wail away with 2 strikes and they don't even care anymore about strikeouts.
They always said home run hitters drive Cadillacs.
Right, there you go. People didn't come to the park to watch Poppy hit an opposite field single.
Yeah,
there you go.
Right. So, and that's another thing about the shifts. No one tries to beat the shift.
Yeah. Oh, how brilliant was it the first day when Sandy Leone dropped the bunt down against the shift and kept the game-winning rally going. Right. All you need to do is drop a bunt down 2 or 3 times and you bring the shift off, and then you have a whole field to yourself. So.
Icho and the Boggs and the Rod Carews don't drive the Cadillac.
Right. Not anymore. Not anymore. So that's the first topic of discussion.
Let's talk about the Sox for a while. Yeah. These kind of discussions are a little awkward because by the time this is viewed, more games have been played, and probably by the time the next edition comes on, some things will change. But at this point, having played 18 games so far,
11% of the season.
11% of the season. Yeah. The biggest thing to me that's been the problem so far is the fact that they have had their specific predicted starting lineup that they expected to have throughout the season. Has only played together in one of the first 18
One
games.
game. Yep.
They fought the flu forever, and 3 or 4 key players were out. They had 2 or 3 bereavement leaves.
Yep. And even with the flu, and even well, it was even with the monovirus or flu, or whatever it was, there were some people that were playing at half strength too.
Right.
It was evident that some guys were just gutting it out.
And then, of course, we've already had injuries. Jackie Bradley missed a week.
Yeah, Pedroia's been out the last couple of days because of a bad slide into him.
Right.
And
Bogarts has got a bad thumb, so injuries you can expect, but the amount of flu bug really hurt the team. And the fact that they, at this point, I think 10-8 now,
is pretty remarkable, actually.
They've been able to survive without the starting lineup. So it's not really a fair 100% assessment to judge where they are now, but let's do it anyway.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind, too, is if you're going to compare them to last season, I just read this, too. The Red Sox had, I think, 7 players that played 145 games or more last year. There were only 10 times in Major League history that had happened before last time. So they were remarkably injury-free last year. So the injuries this year are sort of not what a normal team would normally go through, I'd say, but they're just, it seems out of whack after last year, especially when they had almost no injuries. So that doesn't help either.
So just your opinion, what's been the biggest plus, biggest surprise so far?
The biggest surprise so far is, well, I'd have to say, I think there were 2, actually. I predicted the first one before the season started, is the rise of Matt Barnes being a terrific pitcher. He's really walked down that 7th and 8th inning. He had 1 bad game last week, and it was because he was fried. It was his 4th game in 5 days, and they left him out there. I think he's been a very, very big plus. And in terms of the offense, I think Moreland has been a huge surprise. Not necessarily the power, but he's a great doubles hitter. And he's had a lot of big at-bats. He had a horrible first series, and since then, he's been a steady number 5 hitter. Lack of power, like everybody else, but lots of singles and doubles, a lot of work in the count. He walks quite a bit. I don't think they've missed a beat with from Hanley at first base to DHing. I think he's been an adequate fill-in at first base for them.
Yeah, I think actually doubles are power.
Yeah, sure they are.
And
sure.
he had, I think he's still leading the majors in doubles. He has 11 doubles already, which is great.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that, too. I think the biggest surprise to me overall has been the bullpen.
Generally, yes.
Generally.
Heath Hembry's been outstanding all year, and yeah, they've been excellent.
How many games did starting pitcher get knocked out and then they hold him the rest of the game? Kimbrel had that 1 home run he gave, otherwise he's been...
Well, really, he had 1 bad pitch and then he struck out 5 of the next 6 guys. He's been excellent all year.
He's been terrific. In fact, I was watching a show the other day where they referred to him as the praying mantis up in Boston.
Yeah, right.
when he throws strikes, he's unhittable.
And the bullpen really only had 1 bad game that they blew a lead. It was against the Tigers, and it was one of those games where they had half the team. And Kelly came in, obviously had the flu, and just tried to gut it out and blew the game. But nobody was healthy. You can't get mad about that Tigers series. They had about 15 guys on the roster who were maybe healthy. So the bullpen's been outstanding.
There's only 2 pitchers with 2 wins, Kelly and Barnes.
Right. Yeah, that's out of the bullpen.
So I think that's been a good. But there's, to me, it's been one terrible negative, and that's they have not replaced Big Papi.
Yep.
They don't have anyone with a 3-run home.
There's no power.
Their power outage is scary. They're last in the majors in home runs, and there's 2 or 3 players that have 7 or 8 already.
Yeah, some players are out homering the entire team. Sandoval has 3. He's the only one that has more than one. And the funny thing is that they've been singling and doubling people to death. They're actually, I think, 1st or 2nd in batting average and like 5th in OPS, so they're getting the guys on base. They're just not knocking him in. I mean, how many games have they lost 2-0, 3-1, and they leave 9 guys on base in the course of the game because they don't have that big home run, that big deep threat in the middle of the lineup?
Hanley has none. In fact, Hanley is not. He might be still suffering from the flu.
I think he is.
Maybe he's adjusted to the DH for
could be.
It could be.
Yeah.
He's never been a DH before.
And it's understandable. I mean, anyone who's ever had the flu knows that you're not yourself for easily a week or so after
But
you
he
get
has
it.
0 homers. Bogarts has 0 homers.
0.
Pedroia has 0 homers. And no one else on the team has more than 1 other than Pablo, who's only hitting 220.
220, 230, yeah. So that, I agree. I think that's the biggest disappointment.
Real concern.
And that was something that they were really relying on. This offense is going to be strong 1 through 9. and it just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened at all. I mean, they, through injuries or anything like that, they've had Sandy Leone hitting sixth a couple times. I mean, he's not nothing against him. He's not a number 6 hitter, but they've been forced into things like that through injuries or bereavement or flu or just people not hitting.
And I think that maybe they're pushing Benintendi a little quickly. He's started the season hitting number 2. They put him in the number 2 spot. It's a key spot, and he hasn't shown much power at all. And I think he's feeling the pressure.
I think so too.
2 games ago, he had first time up, 2 men on base, hit a double play. Next time up, 2 men on, hit a double play.
Yeah.
In fact, they rested him yesterday, but I think that they're pushing him along because sort of a unanimous Rookie of the Year preview call.
Sure. Yeah.
And so at this point, he doesn't show it.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned that maybe putting him batting number 2, and they don't seem to have the lineup the way it's most productive.
Yeah.
Moreland is not. He's hitting number 4 for the most part. And who is their number 4 hitter?
Yeah, Hanley and Moreland have switched out of there. They have no homers between them. And like you said, I think Bradley getting hurt put extra pressure on Benintendi. He probably should have sat a couple games that he couldn't because they didn't have anybody to play.
And who knows, maybe Bradley should be hitting higher in the order. They got him down the bottom of the order.
Sure.
And of course, Chris Young has played a lot, and he hasn't shown any power either.
No. Well, he's another doubles hitter too. He's not a huge power guy. So it's there are a lot of singles and doubles, but it's not. You really need that one consistent power threat, and they haven't found it yet
to this point.
And great, it's only April. It's still, but these games count just as much as the September ones. So you kind of have to figure it out as soon as possible.
And when you have a team, the Hitless Wonders teams, you have to manufacture runs, like using the hit and run.
Sure.
And Farrell is not a hit and run player, not a stolen base guy.
No, a few people have, well, and that tied back into the Poppy didn't want people to run. So I think now that Poppy is not in the lineup, that's something that they're actually underutilizing. I think they should be running a little bit more, because they do have guys with Pedroia, Bogarts, Benintendi. They have decent speed, and you can work with that and do something like I said, hit and run.
Okay, Beck's just stole second and third.
Yeah.
There was a shift on, he saw nobody's third base.
I'll just take it.
They can do it, but they don't seem to have the incentive coming from the bench to do that.
Right.
And if this continues, this power outage continues, you're going to have to do something to manufacture runs.
And it's been really frustrating because, like we said, especially the bullpen, the pitching for the most part has been okay, I think. And Sale's been terrific as advertising. It's wonderful. He's absolutely wonderful.
He's the one we've got to talk about.
Yeah.
He has pitched 4 games so far. I think it's 27 or 28 innings. He struck out 42 men.
Yeah.
And most of them have just been helpless.
Oh, he's just been blowing people away.
He's given up 3 runs, given a home run, and then 2 runs were charged to him after he was taken out of the game.
Yeah.
He's absolutely lights out.
He's wonderful.
Gets the ball and throws it in. His attitude has been good. I remember one game they were losing, the game that Kimball blew for him.
Yes.
They were losing. It was 1-0.
And Kimball.
He scored at top of the 9th, and he practically jumped out of the dugout. He was so excited they were going to run for him.
Yeah.
So obviously he's got allegiance for the team already.
Sure he does. And he backed up Kimball too. He said, he's been lights out all year. What the heck, It's
so he.
So yeah, he's been a big plus. And I don't think, and that doesn't qualify as a surprise because I think this is what they wanted to get. But he needed to get mentioned as maybe the biggest positive on the entire team.
Except that Price was in the same category, and he's been an unfortunate surprise.
Yeah, the other way.
Who knows what he's going to be able to do? That's a killer if he's not going to be able to pitch.
Right.
And Thornburg is. Whatever his name is.
Thornburg is, who knows?
They gave him Travis Shaw. Travis Shaw's got more home runs than anyone in the Red Sox for Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Carson Smith. A lot of these characters that they brought in with great expectations have not come through for them.
Injuries
at this point, Sale just looks
looks totally lights out, and they're going to need that going forward because if Price is hurt for any amount of time, it's been pretty obvious that Erod and Pomeranz are not long-term pitchers. They're 5 or 6 inning guys for the most part. And Stephen Wright, like we saw last year, he can have stretches where he'll throw 3 complete games in a row, and then he'll have stretches like he's having right now where he gets knocked out in the 4th inning. I mean, that's sort of the nature of the knuckleballer. So you can't depend. You may get 180, 200 outings of a knuckleballer, but they're not going to be consistent. You're going to have stretches where he pitches a ton and stretches where he's terrible.
And
So
he's given up a lot of home runs.
lot of home runs. Yeah.
When knuckleball doesn't knuckle, it's batting practice.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's just added importance that Sale comes in and sucks up all these extra innings because he's the only one that can do that right now.
Porcello hasn't been as Porcello-like as he might be. I think he might also be feeling for his Cy Young winner. He's
Yeah, well, he threw a lot of innings last year, too. I think he might be a little fatigued. He's also had some bad luck, too. He's had a lot, he threw a lot of, his strategy is throwing grounders, and he struck out more than usual last year, but he's more of a ground ball pitcher, and they've just had a lot of grounders that go through, sneak through in the infield, and a lot of it's bad luck. I mean, I think he'll even out. I mean, he's very dependable. He just had a streak that ended, and he had, how many, 25 starts in a row where he went 6 innings or more, which is nowadays is pretty unbelievable. And it just got snapped, but that's how dependable he is. And I think he'll be fine.
And I think the onus of being the #1 ace on the team has been taken up by Sale now.
Yeah, sure.
So he's not the one that has to stop the bleeding, stop the losing streak.
He doesn't have to go 8 innings, give up 1 run every time out.
And I think when you've got a guy like him or like Pedro was, the other pitchers try to emulate them.
Sure.
So they try to follow his lead and do better. They don't feel that they all have to fall it themselves. So
sure, yeah.
He should be a huge plus. That getting him was a good deal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you think? Yeah, so that's sort of where the Red Sox are at now. Like we said, it's 11% into the season, which it's not a lot, but it could cost you a playoff spot. You never know. I mean, the early games count just as much too, and especially it looks like Baltimore's out to a really hot start, and the Blue Jays are going to get better, and the Yankees are off to a great start.
The Yankees scary.
Yeah,
some of these kids they brought up are playing really well. This Judge
looks excellent. Yes, he does.
Sanchez is hurt already, but Judge looks good, and I think Bird hasn't been hitting, but
he will. And they've had a couple guys. Pineda's looked very good so far, and they still have Tanaka. Sabathia's been up and down like he has been, and that's another thing about Chris Sale. Sale has, I think, pitched against the team's ace every start so far, and he's getting Tanaka this week against the Yankees. He's run into every single strong pitcher, so I think that's another reason why he
haven't scored. Yeah. 3 runs for him or something.
Right. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's. 10-8 certainly isn't awful, but it could cost you a playoff spot. You never know.
It's a dogfight. It's as they say, it's only April.
Right.
But the April games count just as much as the ones in September.
Sure do. So that's why it's just as frustrating now as it is then.
You know what? I don't care how long the games last. I'm still going to watch it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm still going to revolve my night around watching the Red Sox game. Maybe a timeout for Jeopardy in the middle somewhere, but I'm still going to watch the game.
You don't have to watch those interminable intentional walks anymore.
Oh, yeah, that killed my night. I see an intentional walk, I turn the game off, I'm done. So that's sort of our recap of the Red Sox so far. So, and we said that'll probably change by the time we do the next show, but as of now.
Sure. Well, something has come up that I think is worth commenting on that isn't directly baseball.
Sort of
baseball. But I've just read that there is a bill brought before the Senate to make it mandatory that no public school team can use a mascot that has a Native American name, and that it is a slur or something that is negative toward Native Americans. They specify Indians, chieftains, braves, and red men, and also suggest warriors, sachems, tomahawks, and wamps be changed. That's 38 schools. 38 schools. Not if they want to, they have to. Now, I have no problem with the town deciding they'd like to change their mascot for whatever reason. UMass Minutemen became, the Minutemen used to be the Red Men, and they voted to do that. That's okay if they want to.
Sure.
But to make it mandatory that 38 schools have to change, just the cost of that alone is extraordinary. You've got to change all
uniforms and banners and field names and things like that.
Signs.
Oh, the famous one is when you're going down Route 1, it says Saugus Sachems right on the side of the school when you drive by Route 1. Oh no, we can't have that sign out now.
And so all the teams previously that were called that, racist, I guess.
And like you said, if you want to do it on your own, that's fine. And then, of course, times change too. I mean, speaking of Major League Baseball, we have the Indians and the Braves.
Yeah.
And you look back on some of the team logos back, I can see why they want to change some of the logos a little bit. The Braves and the Indians had kind of a couple questionable mascots in the past and things like that, with the team logos and whatever. But to force a team to do it is sort of ridiculous, I think.
In Turner Field, or whatever it's called now, in Atlanta, they all stand there and do the
tomahawk chop. It's been doing that for 20 years.
That's maybe a little iffy.
Maybe a little offensive, perhaps.
So,
yeah, right. But and the funny, what astounds both of us actually about this is that there is no negative connotation with these names. Everything about these names is meant to be positive. You're supposed to be a warrior. You're supposed to be a sachem. You're supposed to be a raider, things like that.
The chieftain. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. There's nothing wrong with the chieftain. And in fact, if you're going to go down the road that it's offensive, you can extrapolate that and do a whole lot of other things that would be deemed offensive too. So I think it's a real slippery slope that's starting here if this is something that goes through.
And there's 6.5 million residents of Massachusetts. There are 18,000 Native Americans living in this state. This suit was not brought by any one of them.
Nope.
Or even Elizabeth Warren, even.
Yeah, I know. Well, she's
it was
part
brought
Indian,
by
remember.
some woman who moved into a town and in a few years decided that use of that Indian name was a slur.
Right.
Now, I hope this certainly doesn't pass.
Yeah.
Because there's a history behind all these.
Of course there is.
And the zeitgeist now perhaps is a little different, but to just negate all these years and years of being a certain, we are the warriors, we are the chiefs.
And not to mention that if you're talking Massachusetts, probably 2/3 of the names of the cities and towns are Native American anyway. So what's the difference?
Is an Indian name.
Yeah.
Anyone out there know what it means? It's not a slur.
Right. It's sort of like you said, the zeitgeist of the times. It's the whole politically correct thing. Nobody wants to offend anybody. But the thing is, in which I understand that you don't want to offend people, I get that. But when there's nothing offensive about it in the first place, that's where it sort of becomes ridiculous, I think.
So we've gone through and checked through some of the other mascots.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There's online, you can get a list of every one of the public school mascots throughout the state. Now, speaking of offensive, violence is offensive. Now, a team is supposed to be strong, be capable, but some of the things that they've chosen to be might be a little borderline.
Yeah.
For instance, there are a fire school called the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the Raiders, that doesn't suggest anything strong and brave. It's sneaky.
That's looting.
It's looting. It's like taking on Lancaster 4 times. It was 4 times Lancaster was raided and
they were
burned down.
Yeah.
Then there's 9 Red Raiders.
Oh, geez.
Whoa!
Oh,
Red Raiders.
Yeah.
Are they communists?
Are they Republicans?
Are they Republicans?
We don't know.
The Raiders, poor old Fitchburg is double whammy.
Yeah, Pittsburgh has too.
Then there's 2 Blue Raiders.
Oh, those are Democrat Raiders.
So they're even out.
That's an opportunity.
There's 8 teams that are Crusaders. Now, I understand Holy Cross has been under fire for being the Holy Cross Crusaders, but Crusaders are actually a group of soldiers who went over and slaughtered infidels.
Right, yeah.
Children's Crusade.
Yeah,
good grief. That's really offensive to me.
Or what was another one we were talking about? There were teams known as the Bombers. Oh, good. People who fly planes and drop bombs on people. Well, that's too violent.
It's Brockton, isn't it?
Yeah. That's too violent.
The Boxers.
Brockton's the Boxers, yes.
Well,
yeah, but that's violent too. Boxing. That's not good.
There's 2 teams that are called the Marauders.
Yeah.
The Midnight Marauders.
Yes.
There's 2 that are pirates. They're outlaws.
Yeah.
That's nothing to be. There's a major league team with that.
Yeah, sure.
Bombardiers.
Yeah, Bombardiers.
Buccaneers. How about the War Eagle?
Oh, that's not good. That's
training
violent.
wildlife to do bad things.
Yeah, I know.
There's the Fighting Hornets, the Fighting Rams, and my favorite, the Fighting Saints.
Yeah.
Saints are supposed to be
Saints are
good.
not violent. Saints are supposed to be peaceful.
Fighting Saints, my goodness. And then there's Bad Weather. The Golden Tornadoes.
Oh, yeah. Just
the Hurricanes.
The Storm. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's.
Let's change that.
Well,
that brings up thoughts.
Well, remember.
Dorothy and Toto.
Oh, remember the movie Twister was rated PG-13 for depicting very bad weather. So we can't have that. And I'm not lying. Go check that on IMDb. I'm not lying about that. And then there are some things like right up the road in Clinton. Clinton is the Gales. Well, that's Irish people.
Sure it is.
Or the Fighting Irish. Well, those are
Fighting-
ethnic slurs. So,
right.
I mean, if you're going to slur against Indians, how about slurring against Irish, too? I mean, let's make sense of this, people. Let's be consistent in our
And
thoughts.
how about these, how would religious people feel about the 7 teams that are Blue Devils?
Oh, that's right. Yep, that's anti-Christian.
And
That's
there's
right.
2 Red Devils.
Oh, that's
So
right.
you got the Republicans, Democrats covered by Devils.
Again,
I
yeah.
mean, in Tampa Bay, they dropped Devils, and that's when the Rays started to win.
That's right. Yeah, so maybe there's something to
But how
that.
about Salem are the Witches?
The witches? Oh, that's not good either.
That's
Yeah.
not good.
That's not good.
Witches aren't good.
Well,
That can't be good.
and to stretch this out again in terms of consistent thought, how about the schools where the men and the women are different team names? Well, doesn't that imply that they are not equal?
Right.
I mean, one is less than the other. And we were talking about the Walpole field hockey team chose to call themselves the Porkers. No lie, they are the Porkers, a self-given name. So, okay, but that's offensive because the Porkers aren't as good as the men. That's a different name. That implies inequality.
Yeah, offends
So-
vegetarians.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it offends vegetarians and pigs. So both of them. It offends 2 different groups. So that's what we mean about there's a whole slope that can start to go down, and what may start out as something as maybe not necessarily good intention, but an idea that people are just going to take to the extreme at some point.
Right.
And that's what you have to stop the nonsense before it starts, to be honest with you. I mean, seriously.
It's just a mascot.
It is.
Just
Yeah.
a mascot.
It is, and you know, I like I said, I understand back in the day they had Chief Nakahama, you know, and he'd
Yeah.
come out shirtless with the Indian and dance around and like an Indian. All right, maybe that might have been a little offensive and stuff like that, and you know, it was sort of the times too. I mean,
Yeah,
go back and look at anything in World War II that had to do with Japanese people. I mean,
Right.
it's a lot of the times it's the parlance of the times, as they
Right.
say,
Right.
that dictates how people think about a certain ethnic group or whatever. But to say that they're offensive to everybody, to everybody, like I'm not offended, the Indians aren't offended, so who's offended by this? I don't quite understand it.
So, I don't know. I mean, 18 schools of the Warriors, that means a lot of different communities have felt that that would be a good
Right,
name
sure,
for them.
yeah.
The cheerleaders have to win all these new cheers.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Go Lunenburg Lamb.
Yeah. Oh, but that's not good because lambs get slaughtered,
Oh,
so that's offensive. We can't do that.
That's right.
So, well, how about the Lunenburg like pillows or something like that? That's not offensive, you know.
It's just this whole concept of forcing people to change names because someone out there might be offensive.
And someone outside of the group who should be offended.
That's right.
And that's where I think, not to get too political, but I think there's a little bit of arrogance to that too. You should be offended by this. You're not, but you should be. Well, no, you don't speak for me.
But I think one of the classics in this state is Lennox. Lennox are the millionaires.
Oh, no, we can't
The
have
Lennox
that.
millionaires.
No, we have to have
In-
equity of wealth in Massachusetts.
In this
Oh, no.
state especially, I would think that would offend a lot of people.
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Go millionaires,
Yeah,
go.
go millionaire. Yeah, that's so. You know, we're sort of taking this lighthearted, which I think you kind of have to take it as what in the world is going on here. But it's just like, again, it's the way the times are. Everybody's afraid to offend everybody else, and they take it to extremes.
And to me, I think it is probably coming from people who really aren't into sports.
Not at all.
They're
No,
not really
at all.
interested in sporting events at all, and so they just look at it from afar. They don't realize the history behind it, the number of people that have been proud to be warriors.
Sure.
Proud
Oh, yeah.
to be millionaires.
Sure.
And just take that all away from them by making them change their name to something bland, I guess
Yeah.
would have to be said.
Yeah, I guess it
Something
is
that's not going to
bland.
be offensive.
Well, you know, like right up this, you know, like you mentioned, Leominster's the Blue Devils. Leominster High School's been around how long? 100-something years, at
Sure.
least, and 100 years of graduates that were proud to be Blue Devils. And now you're going to take all that away? That's sort of ridiculous, I think.
Well, enough on that. Anyone with different opinions is always welcome to come on.
Oh yeah, come on and debate us about that.
Discuss
So-
it. But it just struck me as being, at this start of the baseball season, something that's coming up that just seems so trivial.
It is. It's very trivial.
Speaking of
speaking of trivial,
Now
yes,
it's
that's
time
right. Yes.
for the answer. Because I think part of the problem with baseball shortening games is the fact that they're trying to appeal to a generation that may not have the kind of background that we had playing without the interference of so many games on television, so much organization, the helicopter parents and all that. Go out and play, and so we just love the sport for itself. For instance, how many kids collect baseball cards anymore?
None.
When I was a kid, everybody
did.
Baseball
Everybody.
card collection.
Oh, God.
And partly the card companies have priced it out of range.
That was part of it,
Nobody
too, yeah.
does that anymore.
And this generation with the electronics and internet and everything that has a shorter attention span. That's just the way it's a very instant gratification generation right
Or
now. So.
fantasy baseball.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Last
God,
year we
yeah.
had Ron Chandler on as a guest. I noticed down in the grocery store the other day, there were 7 fantasy baseball magazines and 1 real baseball magazine.
Right, yes. So
Everybody is playing it on computers, staying in their house, staying in their little, trying to figure out the teams that they can be general managers. In the real game is sort of got passed by. Who cares?
Yeah.
The stats.
The stats are what matter.
The stats are what matter.
Yeah.
So here's the answer to the trivia question anyway.
So
The last time was the World Series game during the day was 30 years ago. It was in Minnesota in 1987.
I don't remember it. I don't.
And even that game was in the Dome in Minnesota.
Mhm.
So the last outdoor day game in the World Series was in 1984, the Detroit Padres series.
Yeah.
33 years. So no one under 40 has seen a day game in the World
In
Series.
the World Series. Yeah,
That's the showcase now. The showcase for baseball. Most football games are in the afternoon.
Sure they are. Well, it's Sunday.
Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon is set aside for
Everybody's
football.
what a great time to watch games.
Yeah.
It's a sport that owns a day of the week.
Sure.
As they say in the movie.
Yeah, sure.
So the fact that the baseball chooses to play, TV chooses to play at a time when the youngest generation can't really follow it.
That's a problem.
It's a problem.
and part of it too is like we were saying, the kids are drawn to stars.
Right.
The kids want to see Mike Trout. The kids want to see Poppy or Kershaw or whoever. And so with the extra MLB thing that you were talking about, things like that are more accessible now. So it takes away some of the luster of the primetime games that used to be. You had the game of the week, and that's the only time you ever saw anyone outside of your market.
I didn't look this up, but what was the last daytime All-Star game?
Who knows? Not in my lifetime.
And that game starts. I don't know. I mean, the All-Star game, they've taken away the import of it by not having the World Series be at the home
Sure.
park of the team.
Thank God.
But I know. But still, to be able to see all the stars at one time, again, it starts, I don't think, before 8:30.
Oh, by the time they get through the lineups and the nonsense, it's a 9 o'clock
I'll
game.
bet it's been 30
Yeah.
years for them, too.
Oh, more than that. I don't think
That's
it's in
the
my
time
lifetime.
Some kid can see all the stars at one time. No way.
Yeah. So,
He's in bed at 9 o'clock.
yeah, he is.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. And like I said, there are people who work for a living, and
Sure.
they're not going to stay. The casual fan is not going to stay up till midnight to watch a game. It just
No, the
isn't.
regular baseball games start at 7. Well, that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
7 o'clock. But start them an hour and a half after that.
Right.
In the prime, the big games.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Super Bowl starts at 6:30.
Sure. Yeah. And it goes until late.
It goes forever, but it starts at least at a time for a couple of hours you can watch the game.
Well, for a while, when I was younger, the Sox games used to start at 7:35. Remember?
Right.
And then they moved them up to 7 because it started to get too late because the games got longer and of TV. So they bumped it up to 7. I don't think anybody plays 7:30 games now. They're all 7 o'clock, and they
Pretty much
all
all.
used to be 7:30. They all used to be.
So I think that baseball is making itself its own problem, and by shortening the games of little nips and babs, I think as long as they're under control of TV, that's just going to be the way it is,
Mhm.
and you're going to have to deal with it.
So drink plenty of caffeine the next morning. Stay awake and just do the best you can because we're stuck with it for a while.
And us diehard fans are going to sit and watch the games anyway.
We are,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Just the days when let's play 2, Ernie Banks, let's play 2.
Yeah, long gone. No, long-
And when they do play 2, they're separate admission games because they got to have that 81 games.
They don't want to miss the revenue.
That's right.
Even when I was little, they still had double headers. We used to go to them, and 2-in-1 game, 2-in-1 day was awesome. It was great. It was so much fun.
Let's play 3.
Sure, why not? Oh, God, yeah.
Well, in any case, that's, I guess, enough for episode 2. And we'll see you again soon. Hopefully by the time we meet again, the Red Sox picked up their offense and Sales struck at 142.
Yes. Right. So
until then, we'll see you anon.
See you anon.
Thank you.
See you for episode 3.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another outstanding program provided to you by Lunenburg Public Access. We're here to serve the community. Lunenburg Public Access is always looking for volunteers to help record town events, high school sports, and town meetings. Please consider helping us out today. To contact us, you can call 617-763-3018 or email us at lunenburgaccess@gmail.com. Thank you.